Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Attorney-General, Senator Brandis. Can the Attorney-General update the Senate on the full federal court's recent decision in relation to the single Noongar settlement?
The Attorney-General, Senator Brandis.
Thank you very much indeed, Senator Smith. That's a very important question because on the 2nd of February, that is at the end of the week before last, the full court of the Federal Court delivered an important decision called McGlade against the Native Title Registrar in relation to the single Noongar settlement. The effect of that decision was to overrule an earlier decision of a single judge of the Federal Court in 2010 in a case called Bygrave No. 2, which had settled the law in relation to the necessary requisites for an Indigenous land use agreement to be registered. In short, what Justice Reeves had held in Bygrave, which until the week before last was understood to be settled law, was that it was not necessary for all members of the claimant group to consent to the registration of the Indigenous Land Use Agreement, or ILUA. The McGlade decision, some 13 days ago, overruled that decision and decided otherwise. This is a very significant development in relation to not only Indigenous land use agreements, of which there are 123 in Australia at the moment registered, but in relation to all Indigenous land use agreements seeking registration, because the effect of it is to enable a single member of the claimant group, by withholding their consent, to prevent the registration of the ILUA. This is, as I say, a very significant development in the law. It had not been anticipated. And if Senator Smith cares in his supplementary question to ask me, I'll advise him what the Commonwealth is doing about it.
Thank you, Attorney-General. Senator Smith, a supplementary question, I presume.
Thank you, Mr President. Well, actually, my question is to the Attorney-General, and can he advise the Senate what is the government doing in response to the full federal court's decision?
Attorney-General.
Thank you very much indeed. I can. The Commonwealth will introduce legislation urgently to reverse the effect of the McGlade decision and to restore the status quo ante represented by the Bygrave decision. I was first made aware of the decision of the full federal court the weekend before last. Last Monday, I sought urgent advice from my department and arranged a briefing for myself and the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Senator Scully, and I also brought the matter to the attention of the Prime Minister. And last week, the Prime Minister authorised the introduction into the Parliament as soon as may be urgent legislation to legislatively reverse the effect of the McGlade decision. Those instructions were given to my department last week. The matter is now in the hands of the Office of Parliamentary Counsel, and I'm advised that draft legislation will be ready perhaps as early as this afternoon.
Thank you, Attorney-General. Senator Smith, final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the Attorney-General describe the features of the government's proposed bill?
Attorney-General.
Yes, I can, Senator Smith. That's a very helpful question. Thank you. If its effect, essentially, as I said a moment ago, will be to legislatively reinstate the Bygrave decision. They will remove the requirement that all registered native title claimants sign an ILUA for all such agreements in future. In respect of agreements that have been lodged with the Native Title Tribunal but not registered, the amendments will provide that such agreements are not taken to be invalid because they're not signed by all registered native title claimants. Similar amendments will be made with respect to ILUAs that were registered on an understanding of the law as it stood on the basis of the Bygrave decision. I should add, Mr President, that among those whom I arranged to be briefed on the matter last week was the Shadow Attorney-General, Mr Dreyfus. The Premier of Queensland, Ms Palaszczuk, has called upon the federal opposition to support the federal government's amendments to reinstate the Bygrave decision, and I asked that the federal opposition also cooperate in facilitating this important legislation.
Senator Dean.